Good morning, everybody. My name is Allison Massa. I'm the founder and CEO of Boom Thalma. We're a holistic wellness company. We specialize in functional nutrition, breathwork, meditation, and sound therapy, especially in the employee space. So I'm going to share a little bit about why I decided to start this company. So when I was 22 years old, I was just about to graduate college, and I had all these different symptoms going on. I had really bad migraines. I had chronic fatigue to the point where, I couldn't get through the day without taking a nap. It was just impossible for me. And I had pretty much every digestive symptom you can imagine under the sun. I would eat something, I would become like super inflamed. It would look like I was pregnant. It was a really painful and hard time of my life. And so I went to my doctor, and my doctor ran my blood work, and he said, everything looks fine, but I can give you this medication, I can give you this medication. And by the way, those two medications might have a side effect, so you probably need this medication. And, I had just graduated with a degree in biochemistry and molecular biology. And I was like, there's no way that this man is telling me that this is my only answer. Like, understanding how intricately the body works, I didn't accept that as an answer. So I went home, I started doing some internet research, and I was like, self-diagnosing myself. You know how it goes on WebMD and Google. You look it up and it's like, oh, your left toe hurts, you're going to die tomorrow. And you're like, oh my God. But so I went to my doctor and I was like, I think I have celiac disease. I have a lot of those symptoms. And so he was like, great idea. Let's test you for that. So we ran some tests, and looking back on it now, he actually didn't run the right test, so I don't even actually know if that was the issue. But what did happen was a lot of food allergies came back, like histamine allergies. But what was interesting was I wasn't having the typical runny nose, coughing, watery eyes kind of reaction. For me, it was more just like a general body inflammation. So then I took that information and I went home and I said, why do I have all these allergies? And then I learned about the concept of a leaky gut and gut health, which led me on a several year long journey of healing my body. I bought every book under the sun I could buy. And when I was finally feeling, about 2 to 3 years later, I was finally feeling clear in my mind again, like I could think, I was feeling like myself. That was when I went back to school for functional nutrition. And then I started learning all these different modalities of preventative care and just mind, body, spirit harmony, and how important that really is. So raise your hand if you grew up in a house with a bunch of home cooked meals and an understanding of like healthy food. Just raise your hand. Awesome. So unfortunately for me, I didn't. I would get a home cooked meal maybe once or twice a week, and it was usually meatloaf and peas. And let's be honest, who likes meatloaf and peas, right? Like, I would scoop the peas in my mouth. My mom would be like, did you eat your vegetables? I'd be like, yeah, and spit them out into a napkin, So I kind of grew up on like Wendy's, Velveeta, all that kind of processed stuff. And so it did catch up with my body at 22 years old. And that is why I'm so passionate about teaching this kind of stuff to people, because I have experienced firsthand the effects of that on the body. And now all the time I get from people, my parents' age in their 60s and their 70s, well, I ate that growing up and I was just fine. Well, that's because these processed foods have drastically changed the ingredients that they have in their products now. If you compare a pack of Velveeta from back in, like, let's say the 1970s to now, there's about 20 more ingredients, and a lot of these are actually harmful to our health. So that's the reason why me, being 31 years old now, I was so impacted by these things, whereas people about my parents' age were not. So that's just a little bit about me and why I started this company. And so bringing wellness into the workplace is really important because, as everybody here, I'm sure, can agree, the health of your employees translates directly to the health of your business, and same for their happiness. So there's a lot of different options out there, right? There's some of the traditional options where you give your employees a gym membership and that's part of their wellness plan, but do they ever really go? Do they even know what to do when they get to the gym? Are they supported in that? Then there's also like wellness newsletters or fairs. I've participated in a couple of these. The employers will be like, yeah, let's send everybody to a wellness fair, but then the employees still have to pay out of pocket. Are they really going to actually go and do something for themselves? It's very overwhelming. What table do I choose? There's no good support system in that. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's fun for the employees. It boosts morale. But in the long-term impact, what is that really doing for your company? Then there's the annual wellness days, which are also really fun, but do they really create a long-term impact? You know, it's kind of like this one-day thing. It's one and done. Maybe nothing really sticks. There's no follow through. There's no real integration of that into the workspace, into the person's life. And then I've seen companies come to me after using meditation apps, right? Because those don't get a lot of engagement after the first download. You know, maybe the person does it for 1 or 2 days and then slowly just kind of fades away. There's no group accountability for that. There's no block in the time schedule for that. And real-time interaction makes a really big deal. You're way more likely to attend something and be a part of something when it's happening in real time versus just a bunch of recordings on a computer. Who can agree with that, right? And then there's some kind of traditional like lunch and learn. Somebody will come in, somebody will speak about a subject, and the audience is kind of bored, everybody's zoning out, and then nobody goes away with anything because there's no tools given. There's no follow-through steps given. So these are all the things that I come across with my company of things that didn't work for people. So now I want to talk a little bit about hard metrics versus soft metrics in an employee wellness program. So who can guess what the top 3 things are, diagnoses are, issues are that drive up healthcare costs? You can just shout it out.
Cancer.
Actually, no.
Obesity?
Yes, type 2 diabetes, obesity. That's one. Okay, so we got 2 more.
Yes.
Mental health?
Mental health. One more. High blood pressure. High blood pressure. So these are the big 3 that are driving up healthcare costs in the workplace. And all 3 of these have a remedy to them, or they're completely 100% preventable. So why would we not do something about it? So also, just a quick side tangent, who here, raise your hand if you feel like you have a thorough understanding of nutrition and what to eat that's healthy for you. Okay, about half the room. Some of you are going like this. Okay, thank you for being honest. Now, how many of you feel like you would be motivated to change that if you had some real education around the subject and understood how it was affecting your body? Okay, cool. Like a plan, an action, right? Not just someone coming up here and saying, this is the food pyramid, which is also completely wrong. Do not follow the food pyramid, okay? But actually giving you things to integrate into your daily life that aren't so hard to do. Because that's another big struggle, right? We can go into a lunch and learn, and then all of a sudden there's a list of 20 different things that you should be doing, and the employee leaves super overwhelmed. Like, well, what do I do now? I can't possibly integrate all of these at once. And it's hard. You know, our brains are afraid of change. We're not ready to make that much change at once. So it's really important to have a program in place that can bring your employees kind of step by step through the process of changing their life for the better. So back to hard metrics, right? There's the financial aspect. There's the healthcare costs. Those 3 big contributors keep rising healthcare premiums up and up and up, even though they're completely preventable. And most of that is the cost of prescriptions. So let me go to my next card here. Absenteeism rates are also another hard metric that can be measured in employee wellness programs. You know, output and productivity, are people missing deadlines? Those kinds of things can be measured. And then the soft metrics, right? What is the workplace culture like? What is the experience like when you walk into the workplace, right? Are employees coming in smiling and happy to be there? Are they coming in like, you know, hey, Joe, what's up? You know, it makes a big impact on the energy of the space and how productive people want to be. You're way more likely to be engaged and productive and creative in an environment that energetically fosters that and supports that. The level of drama also is another soft metric, right? When people aren't feeling well, when they're irritable, when they're not getting enough sleep, when they're inflamed, they're going to be a little bit more snappy with each other. And maybe you've experienced something like that in the workplace. You ask somebody a question and maybe they get a little snippy with you, and you know, it's really not you, it's them and how they're feeling in their body. Does their head hurt? Are they experiencing brain fog? Is it difficult to put 2 thoughts together? So those are all things to think about when we have an unhappy or disgruntled employee or drama in the workplace. Also, How is the creativity flow and the collaboration in the workspace? Are people excited to work together? Are they exchanging ideas? All of that is a direct reflection of how healthy and happy your employees are. And also, employees are going to mirror what you invest in them back to you, right? It's just a fact. So when you show them that you care, when you provide them with resources, you're going to get higher loyalty, higher retention, and higher commitment. It becomes a positive feedback loop, right? You have supported employees, which then means you have better performance, which then means you have increased company success, which then means you have more resources for employees. And it just keeps going around and building and growing. So for a wellness program, the average ROI is $3.27 back per dollar spent. That's according to the 2022 American Journal of Health Promotion. Then we have the Mercer Global Talent Trends in 2023 with a statistic that 87% consider wellness offerings when choosing a job. That's a big percent of people. And that can be, health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, other services, mental health counseling. The Journal of Workplace Behavior in 2023 said 56% improved health behaviors reported with an employee wellness program. That's more than half. That is a big amount. And then also, when mental health programs are implemented, according to the Journal of Mental Health in 2022, there's a 91% reduction in depression symptoms. I don't know if anybody here has experienced depression before. I have, and it is really very debilitating. And if we can bring more normalcy about that to the workplace, have a more open conversation, be more vulnerable with each other, it just really opens up a lot for people to heal and to learn from each other and to connect with each other and know they're not alone. And that's another reason I think why mental health is one of the biggest cost contributors to the healthcare policies, because no one wants to talk about it. Very stigmatized. No one wants to admit that they're depressed. Who wants to do that? So on topic of nutrition, how many hours of training do you guys think the average physician receives in nutrition? Shout it out. How many hours? A little bit more. But let's go. Throw out some numbers.
Maybe an hour.
Okay, a little bit higher.
That's medical school.
Yeah. So 19 hours. So I would have guessed the same thing as you guys if I didn't know already. So nutrition is everything on a biochemical level, right? You are what you eat, but you also are what your body can do with what you eat. So I'm going to go into a little tangent here about how we actually process and use the food that we consume. So digestion. Yeah.
Would you be kind enough to talk briefly about clean diet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's something that when I looked into this, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take any steam out of that.
But. Okay. So I'm going to...
Yeah, how many people are familiar with the idea of clean diet?
Whole Foods?
So that's helpful. No, I love everybody here. I'm very enthusiastic about your program. Thank you so much.
Oh, cool. Yeah, what was your name?
My name is Tom.
Tom. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for the question. So yeah, I'll go over the general process of how your digestive system works, and then we'll go into what a clean diet is. So digestion is actually starting in your brain. It's called the cephalic phase. And when you smell food, when you see food, when you think about food, a part of your brain becomes activated and sends signals to the rest of your body to start getting the digestive juices flowing. So your saliva has digestive enzymes, your stomach, your pancreas, your intestines, all these things produce digestive enzymes and juices. So if you're under stress, let's say, you're not going to actually produce any of those, maybe a tenth of those, right? Because when you're under stress, it's usually because there's some kind of threat, right? In the ancestral realm, the threats were either you're getting chased by a predator or there's a conflict with another tribe. So what is the solution for that? Well, you either want to fight them or you want to run away. And so what happens is, to get your body ready for that, is the blood flows to the brain, the heart, the lungs, the muscles, the extremities, right? You don't need to digest any food. You don't need to detox anything. And you don't need to produce any reproductive hormones in order to escape the threat. In modern day, what we're doing is we're actually freezing, right? We're usually clenching up at our desks or like sometimes just feeling so much anger in us, which with no way to like really get that out, especially in the workplace. And so we freeze and that energy has nowhere to go. And when that happens, we're shutting off our digestion. So we're stressed all day long with things like emails, traffic, finances, poor eating choices just contributes to that. We're not digesting at all. So I always give myself 20 minutes to eat my meal in silence, or with friends, that's fine too. But like, you don't want to be distracted reading something that's going to elevate your heart rate and maybe psychologically get you stressed out, because you're not doing yourself any favors. But so the food enters the mouth and it mixes with the saliva, and there's a lot of digestive enzymes present in your saliva, primarily a digestive enzyme called amylase, which breaks down carbohydrates. So then once that happens, the food is going to go down the esophagus into the stomach, where it's going to mix with digestive juices and gastric acid. So the gastric juices are going to break down proteins. So proteins are primarily broken down in your stomach. When we're chronically stressed, we don't have any stomach acid really at all. So that protein can kind of just sit there, especially animal proteins. They're going to just start to get really like fermented if there's not enough digestive juices to break that down. Then the food continues to move into the small intestine, where pancreatic lipases are released. So this means fat breaking down enzymes from the pancreas. So in this section of the intestine, if there's some protein pieces that aren't broken down all the way from poor digestion, this is where the real problem of inflammation starts. So a protein is basically a string of amino acids, right? So our body is used to utilizing a single amino acid at a time. It doesn't know what to do with these larger chains of amino acids. It thinks of them as an invader. So if you're not breaking down your protein fully and completely, it's moving into the intestinal lining, which is a kind of fragile lining. It's only one cell layer thick. So what this means is that it's very easy for things to get in and out unless you're taking care of that cellular lining. So with this continued indigestion of food, it's constant inflammation for that lining. So you can think of it like a fishnet, right? If you use a fishnet over time, in the beginning, just like small particles of sand are getting through as you pick up the fish. Then if you don't do any maintenance or preventative care to that net, bigger and bigger holes are going to form, and all of a sudden you're losing all the fish that you're catching. The same thing's happening in your intestines. So this protein, this undigested protein, gets through, and now the immune system is like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what to do with that. So let's just attack it. And it starts sending these inflammatory molecules to try and kill it, even though it can't be killed, at this piece of food. And so now if you're eating 3 to 4 times a day, and that's happening 3 to 4 times a day, now your body is just bathing in these inflammatory chemicals, and that's just going to clog up your entire system. So a lot of times what's really interesting is we protect ourselves from these toxins, these inflammatory molecules and other toxins, by storing them in fat, right? Because if this toxin is taken and stored in fat on our body or in our organs, it can no longer float around the bloodstream and damage us. So that's a lot of the time I see stubborn weight issues because it's just a toxic overload or inflammation in that way. But anyway, so a clean diet, right? So I think this is different for everybody depending on their blood type, their sex, their activity level, their stress level, their heritage. But quality is going to be the single most important thing. So processed foods are very low quality foods, right? Basically what they do is they strip the food of all the nutrients. Sometimes they will add back in synthetic nutrients which don't absorb, and they will add in a different bunch of preservatives, because really what's important to them is shelf life, right? These processed food companies, they're not here to save you. They're a business. They want to make more money. They want this food to be on the shelf for as long as possible. And to be honest, they don't really care how that has to get done as long as it gets done. So there's a really great resource, actually, if you want to write it down. It's called the Environmental Working Group. They're really awesome. They're a really great website with a bunch of databases where you can go on there. You can check the quality of your water, see how many contaminants are in your drinking water. They'll suggest a water filter for you. They will also, you can type in any food and it will tell you all the ingredients in there and their toxicity level and what parts of the body they affect. And I think most importantly, they have something called a Skin Deep database, where you can put your personal care products into their database, and it will tell you the toxicity of each personal care product and what it affects. So anyway, back to clean diet. When it comes to if you eat animals or animal products, this is one of the biggest things that you want to make sure you're eating quote unquote clean. So it's really easy for these companies to use these labels like natural and premium and kind of get you with those words. They really don't mean anything. So animals are meant to eat a certain diet, right? And we've even been changing the diet that these animals are receiving. So if you are eating a, industrial farm raised chicken or cow, instead of their natural diet of grass, what they're eating is corn, soy, and wheat. So I love all the nods I'm getting from this corner of the room. You guys are like, yeah, so what's happening there is the actual animal is becoming inflamed because omega-3s are the main thing, the anti-inflammatory fatty acid, and omega-6 is more inflammatory. So there has to be this like perfect little balance between omega-3 and omega-6. What's happening in modern world, instead of that balance being 1-to-1, our omega-6s, the inflammatory ones, are shooting way up, and we don't have enough omega-3s. So the grass that these animals are eating are their main source of omega-3, right? Cows have 4 stomachs in order to process this. They're able to extract the omega-3s from the grass. Now you're probably thinking, well, why don't I just eat a bunch of grass and then my omega-3s will be okay? Well, we don't process omega-3s from the grass the same way the cows do. It's a type of omega-3 called ALA that humans can only convert about 10% of into a usable form for our body. So, these cows, these chickens that produce these eggs, these are going to be like our main sources, of course, besides fish, and like some walnuts, mangoes have omega-3s, but not in the form we need. Algae is also another great form, just as a little side note for the vegetarians or vegans in the room. But so what's happening is when we're depriving these animals of what they need to grow and thrive, we're making them inflammatory. And then by eating them, we are becoming inflammatory. So how do you find high quality animal products? Well, directly from the farm is always the best way. I mean, nowadays there's subscription services. You can go online, you can order like farm fresh meat, eggs, dairy, all the things. You can, there's Amish farms that do drop-offs. There's Butcher Box, there's White Oak Pastures, there's Pasture Bird. Like just type it into Google. There's going to be so many options, but they'll deliver it right to your house, freeze-dried, not freeze-dried, what's it called? Dry ice, that's it. So it'll stay nice and fresh for you. But that is probably the only way you're really going to be sure that you're getting high quality animal products and avoiding all those inflammatory parts of the animal. I mean, when I'm in a pinch, yes, I'll go to Whole Foods and I'll get the grass-fed meat or whatever, but I prefer to do it that way. And honestly, it saves you a lot of time because you don't really have to think about it. It just gets delivered to your door and you put it away. So I love time savers. Anyone in here love the dishwasher? I'm obsessed with the dishwasher. Scott always yells at me for, you use the dishwasher too much. We're only 2 people. But I'm like, the convenience. So yeah, you can use those. When you see cage-free on eggs, that really doesn't mean anything. It just means they're all shoved in a big factory. There's no cages, but that doesn't mean the living conditions aren't disgusting, right? There's disease rampant. There's pee and poop everywhere. It's very unsanitary. So for that, you really want to try to look for pasture raised, which means that they are free to forage on the grass and eat bugs and food scraps. And again, sometimes there can be misleading in those kind of labelings on the boxes and stuff. So best way is just direct to farm. Like fruits and vegetables, they don't matter as much. But if you're going to start somewhere on that journey, I would say the animal products should be the start for you. So no processed foods, no refined sugar. What does that mean? Refined sugar is that white sugar that you see. So they take the sugar cane, they strip it of all the vitamins and the minerals that normally come with the sugar cane. They bleach it, they use bone char, and a bunch of other weird processes that I don't even really understand how they make money on it after they do all these processes. I always think about that. It gets me in a hole. But so what happens is your body has to compensate for that lack of nutrition. So when you eat refined sugar, there's no vitamins and minerals to metabolize that. So it's pulling from your own body's stores. So if you eat, let's say, 1 molecule of sugar needs 56 molecules of magnesium to break that down. So it's just going to pull that from your body. Low magnesium can lead to heart palpitations. It can lead to lack of sleep, muscle tightness, headaches. Like there's so many things that come with that. So a magnesium supplement at night is a great thing to take. So let's see. So yeah, refined sugar. So what can you replace that with? There's maple syrup, there's honey. You can use dates or date syrup. You can use even coconut sugar. Who's heard of coconut sugar? Raise your hand. Good half of you. So coconut sugar is just the sugar from a coconut palm tree. So it's unrefined, it's natural, it still maintains all its nutrients. Don't be fooled that brown sugar is healthier. It's not. It's just white sugar, and they pour molasses on it to make it look brown and pretty. And then seed oils. Raise your hand if you're familiar with seed oils. If you know the names of some of them, shout them out. Okay, cool. Sunflower, she said. What else? Grapeseed, soybean, corn. Avocado, no. Avocado is actually from the fruit itself, which is really cool, which is why I recommend that one. There's also, vegetable, canola, safflower, peanut. I think you guys got all of them. What'd you say? Palm. Thank you. But so yeah, you want to focus on more clean oils, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, even like the good fats, butter, ghee, tallow. I eat like half a stick of butter a day and my cholesterol numbers are fantastic. So don't be afraid of real food. So that was my tangent about clean eating. Did I kind of cover that for you? You have any other questions?
Just a comment that I had some experience.
Yeah.
But the diet that you would look at for, say, neuro, and the diet that you would look at for cardio,
very different.
Also for cancer. Well, in many cases, there is overlap.
For sure.
I'm just saying. So I just offer that. That was my experience.
Yeah, depending on if you have some kind of chronic illness or a chronic thing going on, the diet's going to look a little bit different. But I think some general things are clean water, no seed oils, no refined sugar, no processed foods, and high quality food. Like that's kind of like, for everybody, every diagnosis, every human. But then there's more intricacies. Yes.
You mentioned the magnesium. What form of magnesium do you recommend?
So there's a bunch of different kinds. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Like magnesium glycinate is one of the most absorbable forms, but that will actually, keep your stool more, because it does affect the digestive system too. It will keep your stool more formed. And then where there's magnesium citrate will actually help you go to the bathroom if you're a little bit constipated. Magnesium oxide is a good absorbable one too. What I recommend is there's this brand, it has magnesium glycinate, citrate, and oxide in it, all three in like the perfect ratio. I forget the name of the brand, but I'll give you my card after and I'll text you the name after. But I really prefer that one because it gets you like all the different types.
Yeah, I know you mentioned sugar substitutes, agave.
Agave is good. It's a little bit more high glycemic, so you just want to be aware of that. But really anything that's not white refined sugar is going to be better. Yeah.
Somebody that's low in vitamin D, is there something that they should be eating or not eating or taking?
So fatty fish, sardines, anchovies, salmon, any kind of animal products, especially egg yolks, are going to be really rich in vitamin D. But if you are actually really low in vitamin D, I would suggest like a sublingual, one that goes under your tongue. And you want to make sure you're eating it with something fatty because it is a fat-soluble vitamin. So if you're eating it, if you're absorbing it and there's no like fat already being absorbed in the system at the time, you might not actually be like integrating all of that into the body.
Is it still liquid that goes into those?
Yeah, just the little drops. Yeah, there's a really good brand. Mary Ruth's is a good brand. Just Supplements. And I can give you some recommendations too after this if you want to take my card. So that was a tangent. I'm going to check the time. All right, cool. So about 73% of chronic conditions have direct nutrition connections. So it really is so important what you're putting in your body. Effective approaches, in my opinion, are focusing on what to add in versus what to restrict. A lot of people have hesitations when following a nutrition program or seeing a nutritionist because they're like, oh man, she's going to take away my steak. She's going to take away my cigar. She's going to take away my whatever chips. And I don't think that's a good approach because you're not going to reach anybody like that. You want to focus on, well, what can I bring into the diet? What can I add in that's going to supplement me? Okay, sure, I'm going to go out. I'm going to have, the dinner at the restaurant with the 3 drinks. But did I have my smoothie today? Did I have my bone broth today? Like whatever it is that's in your plan. I think that's really the most important thing to bring home. adding in those nutrient dense foods instead of focusing on what to subtract. And then practical, like meal prep and meal upgrade strategies, right? Like sometimes people will come to me, and I always have like, in a one-on-one setting, I always have my clients fill out what they're eating, how they're feeling, and how their poop is, which is also something that's never spoken about. But that allows me to really look at their meal and be like, okay, well, where can we upgrade? Where can we maybe make some healthier swaps that you're not going to feel like you're missing out on something? It's just going to be a better version, maybe without as much additives, without as much sugar, whatever that is. So giving people real ways to do this, real life examples. And I love to do this in some of my workshops is, literally just talk one-on-one with people and have them tell me, what their favorite things are, what they know maybe doesn't make them feel good. Because we all have a pretty good understanding of what we put in our body, what makes us feel good and what doesn't. And, we still do the things that don't feel good for us anyway. And it's just a little treat. I get it. But yeah, so really bringing in the conversation of simple food swaps and food quality, I think is really important, and giving people the resources to do that. Bringing in stuff like recipes, meal prep guides, and shopping lists. Like that can be so helpful. If you're told, oh, you should be eating these 4 meals with this amount of protein. If you can get those in every week, you'll be much better off. And then the person's like, okay, well, how do I do that? And they don't do it because they're scared, because it feels like a lot of work. Right? So if they're actually provided with recipes, meal plans, and a shopping list to supplement their current diet, it becomes a lot easier because it's all right there in front of them. So then, there's the body-food connection. Some of the main things that I talk about are inflammation, kind of like a little bit about what I spoke about today, blood sugar balance, which is a huge, huge thing, gut-brain access, and energy production are all really big topics that I think people need to learn in a new way, in a way that resonates, and feel like they have resources and actionable steps that they can take to start making a change now. So then we also focus on breath work and meditation. So raise your hand if you've ever done any breath work. Okay, about a couple of you. That's awesome. Okay, what about meditation? Who feels like meditation sucks and doesn't work for them? Raise your hand. Okay. I know the feeling. That's why I actually fell in love with the practice of breath work, because it actually gives you something a little bit more tangible to focus on, right? When you're told to meditate and just kind of focus on your breath, all of a sudden your mind's in 100 different directions. You're like, oh my God, did I say this? Did I do the thing I was supposed to do? What are we having for dinner? Did someone vacuum? Your mind's going in a million different directions. But when you're given a rhythm of breath to work with, it's something that you can actually really feel in your body. So it becomes more a form of embodiment rather than just trying to clear your mind. And the focus of both these practices is really to increase your focus, increase your ability to concentrate on one thing. And that's really important because we can become very overwhelmed with all the different thoughts and tasks and to-dos. And a lot of us, maybe you've experienced it, just freeze in place. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes if I have a big to-do list, I'll lay on my phone and I'll play Block Blast for an hour instead, because then I don't have to think about my to-do list. Yes. Yeah, and I like that, analysis paralysis. Thanks for that. So without proper techniques on how to take care of your nervous system, and that becomes a common thing. And that's obviously not what you want your workers to be experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that actually happens in the brain. So there's 2 parts of your brain that work together in terms of critical thinking and emotions. One of them is called the amygdala. The other one is called the prefrontal cortex. So shout it out if you know what the amygdala is or does. Okay, I'm glad this isn't a science class. The amygdala is this part of your brain, like right on top of your brainstem. It's responsible for your movement, it's responsible for your breath, and it's responsible for your emotions. So when you are emotionally stimulated, this part of your brain becomes larger and activated. Now, your amygdala loves to hang out with its buddy, the prefrontal cortex. They always hang out on this seesaw together, right? So the prefrontal cortex, if you know what it does, shout it out. Yes. Makes decisions, problem solving, memory, critical thinking, all these things that we need in the workplace. So again, they're together on this seesaw. If your amygdala is overwhelmed with emotions or stress, the amygdala is going to go up on the seesaw and your prefrontal cortex is going to go down. So raise your hand if you've ever had an experience where you get into an argument with somebody or a disagreement, and then 3 hours later, you're home, you're taking a shower, and you're like, oh, I should have said this, this, and this, and this. That would have really got him. So that's because your amygdala was so overactivated at the time that your prefrontal cortex just could not critically think, and it could not calmly think. And so if we have employees in the workplace who are constantly stimulated, their amygdala is constantly stimulated, that's going to be them all day long with every decision they're making on behalf of your company or the work that they're supposed to be doing for you, which is just going to waste money. Mistakes can happen. You got to go back and fix them. So really important to take care of our wellness in that way. So we kind of got into how stress affects digestion. It also affects the immune system. So your immune system is going to produce 50% less white blood cells when you're under this chronic kind of stress, leaving people more susceptible to different diseases. Like with COVID, I like to use this example is supposedly healthy people were dying, right? And chronic stress could definitely be, now I don't have any proof, I didn't look up any study, but logically, chronic stress, if it suppresses the immune system by 50%, of course it could have been a contributor to people's pre-existing conditions, right? So the cardiovascular system as well with stress, it elevates the blood pressure, it can create vessel wall damage, and the blood becomes more viscous, so the clotting risks increase. We talked about digestion, how it affects that. And then it also, I want to note, decreases natural killer cells. So who knows what a natural killer cell does? Raise your hand. Okay. It's a part of our innate immune system, and it's specifically the cell that attacks cancer cells. So this is why chronic stress is directly related to cancer and possible formations of cancer. We talked about brain function, but it really is a domino effect. When one system becomes weakened or depressed, the rest of them are going to follow through, right? And for whatever reason in Western medicine, we've been led to believe that every system exists in a vacuum. Like the thyroid exists in a vacuum, the gut exists in a vacuum, but that's simply not true. Everything is always communicating at all times of the day. And so if there's something wrong with one system, it's only a matter of time before that trickles into the next system. So it's really important to, have somebody who really understands this full body systems connection. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about sound therapy because it's very unique and it's one of those rising kind of therapies that people are starting to learn more about. They're starting to be integrated. So who here knows what sound therapy is? Okay, if you guys want to tell me what sound therapy is to you.
I'm saying that different frequencies can have different healing effects on the body.
Yes.
And I try to do that sometimes, but it gets annoying. It's the same noise, but anyway, it seems good in theory.
Yeah. Sound bath, yeah. Uh-huh.
I've heard of something called
binaural beats.
Is that part of it?
Yeah, so typically for that, that's usually with headphones. And what happens is there's two different frequencies on two different sides of the head to activate the left and the right sides of the brain so that they can work together. Because usually when we're going about our day-to-day, especially for women, it's usually the left side of our brain is working or the right side of our brain is working. It's one or the other. The only time for a woman that both of these parts of the brain are working together is when she's approaching her ovulation or postmenopause, which is very interesting. So if you're a woman and you're still cycling and you're at that ovulation point, that's like your prime time. You want to get all your best projects done. Yeah, you're going to, whew. One of my mentors always says, if there's ever like a big issue in the world or like we're on the brink of World War III, just put all the ovulating women in a room and have them figure it out and they'll get it done in 10 minutes. But so sound therapy is, it emits different frequencies, like you said, that interact with our body. Specifically, they reduce the size of the amygdala. So giving you more resiliency when you have those big emotional outbursts, like if you feel a lot of anger, fear, grief, stress, whatever it may be. So let me break this down for you from a scientific standpoint. So who here is familiar with an atom? Okay. Who knows what the 3 subparticles of an atom are? You could shout them out. Protons, neutrons, and electrons. Nucleus is that part of inside the cell that produces the DNA. So the protons and the neutrons are in the center of the atom, but the electrons are on the outside of the atom. And what gives the electrons their personality, so to say, is they're always in a constant state of vibration. They never ever sit still. This is how everything in the universe interacts with each other. They're always sharing and giving and receiving electrons. It's always an exchange of electrons. And so when we bring in something like sound therapy, what we're doing is we're vibrating our own electrons at certain frequencies to help lower the impacts of stress on our amygdala. So that's really super powerful. And also another thing to note is because the amygdala is the controller of your breath, if you reverse engineer that and learn to build a connection with your breath and control your breath, then you control the amygdala. So it's really an up and coming kind of modality that can be used on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis in the workplace. Yeah.
Does music count as sound therapy then, with like certain frequencies?
Yeah.
and songs?
Yeah, definitely. But of course, like you can even think of this, right? Like you listen to a song that like drives you nuts, right? What does it do to your mood? You get angry, you get annoyed, as opposed when you listen to a song that maybe has like nostalgia for you and how that elevates your mood. And that really just goes to show like the power of the frequency and the vibration and how you relate to it. But yes, there are certain frequencies that do certain things for the body. Like 423 is known to enhance memory and focus and concentration. So yeah, and it's also, it is personally dependent on which songs you resonate with and which frequencies you resonate with as a person. So let's see, I'm going to check my time again. All right. So there's 5 different types of brain waves we experience, right? Everything operates in waves: light waves, sound waves, heat waves. This is just the law of the universe. So the beta waves are our slowest brain wave. They happen when we're in a deep, deep sleep. Then there's the theta waves. These are like the minutes when we're right about to fall asleep and the minute after we wake up. We're still kind of in a trance-like state. We're still resting, but we're not in a deep sleep. But we do have some access to our subconscious mind in that state. Then we have the alpha state, which is more of like a creativity flow state. So think of this as like if you're in the flow of something. So you're painting, you're coloring, you're cooking, like you're very like a more flowing kind of activity. Whereas then there's the beta brain waves, which are focused on output, productivity, like other types of maybe even like computer work, not anything like writing or anything, but problem solving, right? And then there's gamma waves, which are like super laser focused. This is when you have the thing called like a download or like a new idea pops into your head. That's the gamma wave state. So when you interact with frequencies intentionally, you can kind of move yourself through these different brain waves and use that in the workplace, use it in your personal life. So it's really powerful stuff. When you're in the beta state, like the focused work, maybe numbers kind of stage, if you're there for too long, you're going to experience burnout. So that looks like mental fog, decision fatigue, emotional instability, sleep issues. So it's really important to give yourself time to drop into those other brainwave states, right? Like I personally have just started using 90 minutes of focused work, 20 minutes of rest, 90 minutes focused work, 20 minutes of rest. And you become way more productive. I mean, it's also like a mental thing, blocking out the specific time and knowing that you have the time to rest. But the physiological effects on the brain are going to allow you to be more productive or your employees to be more productive. So that's just another idea of something you could introduce to company culture. Meditation, right? There's different ways to do it. You can do a visualization. So somebody would guide you through some kind of visualization in the body and you would experience that. Or you can focus on things that you hear while your eyes are closed, right? So there's different modalities of doing it, not just focusing on your breath, which I think is really important to teach people all the different ways that they can hone in their focus. Let's see here. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things that you can bring into the workplace to help your employees. I offer a wide range of services, but I also, have some partners that do things like they will have a primary care on virtual call, because that's another stress for employees, right? Like you go to make a primary care appointment, they're like, we'll see you in 3 years and 6 months. And you're like, oh my God. So that's like another people are more likely to go to the doctor's office or connect with a doctor when they have instant access. So like if you come to me as an employer and you want to put something in place, if what I offer doesn't align with you, I do have other companies I work with that maybe would be more suited for you. I'm always just going to tell you honestly, you know, based on the needs of your company, if I think we're a good fit or not. But there's a lot of resources out there. So I'd really love to just end this session with a quick meditation that we'll all do together. And so you'll leave this room feeling good for your next meeting and focused and present. So you can go ahead and close your eyes and just allow yourself to get into a comfortable position. So we're going to do a body scan / visualization today. So what you're going to do is begin to relax your shoulders down away from your ears. And you're going to allow your arms and your hands to become heavy, whether they're on your lap or they're resting on the sides of the chair. And you're just going to begin to breathe in and out through your nose. Okay, noticing if there's any tension in your forehead and the space between your eyebrows. And if there is, letting those muscles become soft. And then bringing your awareness to your jaw. And if there's any tension or clenching there, letting go of that. And continuing the awareness down your body, making sure your shoulders are still down away from your ears. Letting go of any like clenching, sucking in, tightness you're doing in the belly region so your breath can flow fully and easily. And just feeling your feet flat out on the floor, maybe even gently trying to spread your toes apart, letting go of any tension you're holding on to in your feet. And then I just want you to imagine a beautiful lavender light circling above your head. And then I want you to imagine a funnel entering from the top of your head. And this lavender light makes its way down the funnel and into your brain and into your head. And everything begins to feel calm and relaxed. And this purple light is a beautiful, creative, healing energy that fills your body with love and peace and confidence. And so just allow this lavender light to circle around your body for another moment more. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take 3 breaths together. So what we're going to do is inhale through the nose. We're going to hold it at the top, and then we're going to exhale out of our mouth. So we'll go ahead and take a nice big breath in through our nose. And we'll hold it at the top, and then exhale out of the mouth. And inhale through the nose. Hold it at the top, and exhale out of the mouth. And breathe in through the nose. Hold it at the top, and exhale out of the mouth. Now, before you go to open your eyes, I just invite you to take any gentle movements that maybe feel good, maybe rolling the neck or the shoulders and just loosening up any stiffness you've accumulated this last hour you've been in your chair. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I know I didn't get really into more of the intricacies because we got a little sidetracked, but I think it was a good sidetrack. I hope you learned something. Does anyone have any questions?
Is there anything on YouTube with the sound therapy or an app or anything?
Totally. I mean, you can definitely go on YouTube and type in all these sound therapies. Yeah, I have my own YouTube channel as well where I have some things on there that you can check out. Yeah. Any other questions?
So you're on YouTube?
I'm on YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you my card. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. If you want to get any supplement recommendations, if you have any questions, I have some pamphlets up here that you can take. I will leave them up here if you want to